بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. اللهم آمين. وبعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. We continue with our series of reminders and lessons about the Salah, its importance, and some of the common mistakes made with regards to the Salah. The Salah, as the Prophet ﷺ describes it, is Imad ad-Din. It is the central pillar of Islam. It is the pillar that supports all the other commands of Sharia. It is the Qurratu Ayn Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. It is the pleasure of the eyes of the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam. Whenever something stressed him or worried him from the affairs of the dunya, he would immediately go to Salah for relief. Imagine, whenever the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam was distressed by a matter, he would go to Salah for relief. He would find his connection and worship and in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would help his heart find ease and help him overcome any obstacle and trial of the world. The Prophet ﷺ said about the Salah, and he gave an analogy. He said, have you seen a man who exits his home every day and goes into a river? Will there remain any filth on him? They said, yeah, no, Ya Rasulullah, a man who does this 5 times. He said, have you seen a man who exits his home and goes into a river 5 times a day? Will there remain any filth on him? They said, no, Ya Rasulullah, there will remain no filth on him. He said, that is the Salah. Whoever maintains it and prays, it will purify him from any sin, minor sin they committed. Major sins require tawbah, but it wipes away the minor sins, the gazes, things we look at, things we hear, things we might say, things, inappropriate thoughts, any of these things that come to us and we don't really give it much thought and it's just intuitive and or impulsive. The Salah wipes away the sins of these mistakes. And so this Salah is, as we mentioned, the first act the servant will be held accountable for on the day of Qiyamah. And the Salah has many requirements. If you look in the books of Hadith, you will find that the most common topic that the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ speak about the Salah. You find abundant ahadith about the Salah, about its prerequisites, its forms, its etiquette, its the arkan of it, all of this. You find plenty and plenty of hadith. Our scholars say the majority or the 2 topics covered most in the hadith are Salah and Jihad. To show us the abundant attention that Rasulullah ﷺ gave to Salah. He emphasized the Salah to his community. And at his death, alayhi salatu wasalam, what did he say? As-Salah, As-Salah. At the end of his life, his will to the Ummah was the Salah, the Salah. Do not neglect the Salah after me. Do not trivialize the Salah after me. This is the greatest command of Allah up to you after Iman is the Salah. This is the most important command. That was the will of our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so therefore, every believer must be concerned with the Salah and must give the Salah priority and attention, work to maintain the Salah at its times, and then strive, and this is a lifelong journey, to improve their Salah. Because Salah is a devotion that takes a lot of effort, mentally, spiritually, intellectually, And so a person must try to cultivate their khushu' in their salah. As the Prophet ﷺ, he warned, أَوَّلُ عِلْمٍ يُرْفَعُ مِنَ الْأَرْضِ الْخُشُوعِ. He said the first knowledge that will be removed from the earth is humility. Humility with Allah. That is the first thing that will be removed from the hearts of people before anything else. And so the believer first tries to works on maintaining the salah and performing the 5 salah, and then from there they work on praying in the masjid, and they work on improving the quality of their salah and improving its length, improving the khushu', adding the sunnahs, and many other etiquettes that go along with salah, which we don't have the time to discuss right now. What I would like to discuss today is the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ in which he said, Al-wudu miftah al-salah, or miftah al-salat al-wudu. He said, alayhi salatu wasalam, the key to salah is wudu. The Prophet ﷺ said in another hadith, لا يقبل الله صلاة أحدكم إذا أحدث حتى يتوضأ. Allah does not accept the salah of one of you if he commits hadath until he makes wudu. And we'll talk about hadath. But that's referring to wudu. If a person nullifies their wudu, Allah does not accept the salah of anyone until they make wudu. And so these ahadith show us that the wudu is a requirement of salah, and our scholars in the books of fiqh, they say, when it comes to shurut al-salah, at-taharatu min al-hadathain, shart min shurut al-salah, they say tahara to be pure from the 2 hadath. Hadath is a state of impurity. There's a minor and major state of impurity. A major state of hadath is when a person has to make ghusl. And that's if they have a wet dream, if they have sexual intercourse, menses, death. These things require ghusl. They're ghusl. And so if a person has a wet dream or intercourse, they must take a full shower, head to toe, every part of their body. There can be no barrier on their between them and the water. No nail polish, no paint, nothing of that sort can be on their body. Their water must reach all the parts of their body, including the roots of their hair, for their salah to be valid. This is the ghusl. And this is especially important to be aware of for those who have longer hair, especially women. If they're in the state of janaba, they must wash their hair or the salah is not valid. We call that major hadath. Janaba, menses, wet dream, and so on, that's called major hadath. A full body shower is required, head to toe. Hair, skin, and nails must all be washed without any barrier. If there's a barrier, even just one nail, and there's nail polish on it, and they wash everything except that spot, they're still in janaba, their salah is not valid. Allah doesn't accept the salah of one of you if he commits hadath until he makes wudu. And then for ghusl, same rule applies. If a person is in janaba, every part of their body must be washed. So that's with regards to ghusl. And many people make mistakes with their ghusl. And like we said, the common mistakes is they overlook the hair and the washing of the hair, or nail polish gets in the way, or something on their skin, paint, or a bandage even. These things must be removed unless it's medically required and necessary. Otherwise, they have to be removed for their salah to be done. The second is regarding the wudu. The wudu, there are 4 things. If a person commits them, they have to make wudu. Real quick, I want everybody to memorize these 4. We probably all know them. 4 things: touching the opposite sex. A mature adult of the opposite sex with arousal nullifies the wudu. In the Shafi'i school, though desire, touching skin-to-skin contact nullifies the wudu. But we'll take the opinion that with arousal. If a man touches a woman with arousal, it nullifies the wudu, and that includes the spouse. If a man or a woman touch each other and there's some arousal, it nullifies the wudu. It nullifies the wudu. Second thing that nullifies the wudu is touching the private part of a human being with the inner hand, oneself or anybody else, even a child, nullifies the wudu. That's specifically the inner hand. Third, anything that exits from the private parts nullifies the wudu. So urine, stool, gas, blood, anything, sexual fluids, anything that exits from the private parts nullifies the wudu, and wudu must be made. And last, sleep or loss of consciousness. Sleep or loss of consciousness nullifies the wudu. These are the nawaqid al-wudu. These are the nullifiers of wudu. We should all memorize these 4. Every Muslim should know this. Because if any of these acts are committed, a person's wudu is broken and their salah is not valid till they make their wudu. I want to go to the salah, to the wudu, inshallah ta'ala, more specifically, because I want to address some common mistakes that were made in the wudu tonight. The wudu, the most important limbs that have to be washed, that are required for the wudu, are the face, the arms, hands, and elbow, the wiping of the head, and the washing of the feet. Everything else is sunnah. Alright, so these four limbs that we mentioned are the most essential for the validity of wudu. What are they? Face, hands, with the arm, with the elbow, all together. If any part of it is skipped, the wudu doesn't count. Even if they washed it earlier, it has to be washed at the moment of washing the arm. The hands, the arm, and the elbow have to all be washed. If any part of it is skipped, there is no wudu. And then the third is the wiping of the head. A part of the head must be wiped. And then the fourth is the washing of the feet above the ankle. So the feet, the heel, and the ankle also has to be washed. If the ankle is left out, the wudu doesn't count. And subhanAllah, how many people make wudu and they miss parts? With regards to the face, I often see people miss parts on their face. Adults, people who've been making salah for a long time. What is the definition of the face? The scholars, they say the definition of the face is from hairline to below the chin and from ear to ear. Ear to ear includes the sideburns as well as the skin between the sideburns and the ear. So if a person washes their face and they didn't wash their sideburns, or they didn't wash the skin next to their ear, there's no wudu. Small mistake. It's a small mistake, but there's no wudu. That wudu is nullified. It doesn't count. Go and make wudu again, make that salah again. And with the arm, so that's regarding the face. What is the definition of the face? We said hairline, the average hairline, and down to below the chin. Not at the chin. Whenever we say at a limit, you have to go beyond it. Below the chin, and then ear to ear, that entire space is the face. It all has to be washed in order for the wudu to be valid. The second is the arms, right? And we said with the arms, you have the hand, the arm, and the elbow. If the hand is skipped, which of course it won't be, the arm, but the one that most people skip is the elbow. They stop at the elbow. They'll roll up their sleeve and their sleeve will be rolled up to the elbow and they won't wash above the elbow. They'll stop at the elbow. And that is not sufficient. That is not sufficient. So a person must make sure when washing their arms, they wash the hand, the arm, and the elbow. They have to go above the elbow. If that is not all washed, then the wudu doesn't count. Next is the head. The head is the easiest. They just have to wipe a part of the head. Some scholars say a third. Some scholars just say a few pieces of hair and that's sufficient. And then the last part is the feet. With the feet, there's a hadith. Once during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, a man made wudu and he missed a part of his heel, the back of his feet. He washed his feet, but he basically overlooked a little part. The Prophet ﷺ, he saw that this man's heel wasn't washed properly. He said, وَيْلٌ لِلْأَعْقَابِ مِنَ النَّارِ. He said, woe to the heel from the fire. SubhanAllah, right? Just think about that. Somebody might say, it's trivial, he just missed the heel. What's the big? The Prophet ﷺ said, overlooking the limbs of wudu, the result of it can be adab on the day of Qiyamah. It's serious because it is a requirement of salah. Because the salah is the greatest obligation, its prerequisites are also a great obligation. And so the requirement is to wash the feet, heel, and the ankle. And the ankle. The ankle must be washed above the ankle. And so this is the requirement for the validity of wudu, washing of these four limbs correctly. Everything else I didn't mention is sunnah. Everything else I didn't mention is sunnah. So alhamdulillah, try to do it. If you don't do it, there's no sin on you. It doesn't affect the validity of your prayer. But these four are obligatory, and overlooking, making a mistake with them leads to the invalidation of the wudu and the salah. And the last mas'ala I will conclude with for the night is socks. If a person wipes their socks have to be covering above the ankle. A lot of youth make this mistake. They wear ankle socks and they wipe over their socks. That wudu is invalid, that salah is invalid. Ankle socks are not sufficient to be wiped. If a person wipes their socks, the socks have to cover above the ankle. They have to conceal the entire ankle. If the entire ankle is not concealed, that wudu doesn't count, that wipe doesn't count, that salah doesn't count, it must be made. Right? So these are minor issues, common mistakes people make. And so inshallah ta'ala this month we'll try to address some of these issues little by little bi'idhnillah ta'ala. If you have questions you can ask later bi'idhnillah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us understanding and increase us in knowledge. And we ask Allah to make us among those who establish and maintain the prayer. Allahumma ameen. Wa jazakumullah khair.